In this election, there's been a lot of emphasis on encouraging young voters to get a bit more involved. And how important do you think the mainstream media has been in involving young people?
I think that the real involvement has been generated by, the social networks, stoked by Russell Brand and others. Not that he's necessarily urged people to vote, he even urged people not to vote, but I think it's stimulated discussion and thought and whether this was something people wanted to be part of. I think the mainstream media have been important, but not as important as they think they have been. And actually, I don't think we've done enough. I think tonight's a great example of what we want to try and do, which is to really rake through the things which really concern 18 to 24-year-olds.
And how important is it for young people to start getting involved in politics?
Well, it seems to me it seems to me that young people get a very, very rough deal. I mean, I contrast my own growing up, going to university, absolutely free, no fees. I never even wondered how much my fees were. I never knew. I mean, they were paid by the local authority. And they even paid me a living allowance. I mean, it's a stunning thought. And you have nothing. You have to pay £9,000 a year or more. And I don't think that that's justified. And I think young people should have a voice and should have a voice represented in Parliament.
And why do you think so many young people have started to become disillusioned with politics?
Because I don't think they feel any identity with Westminster, which is a really curious place. I mean, first of all, it has a kind of medieval feel about it. The behaviour is pretty medieval and some of it positively animal in the noises and farmyard sort of experiences you get in the middle of debates and Prime Minister's questions. And I just think, it's time we sorted it out. I mean, for one thing, everybody's surprised and shocked that there's every possibility of a 20-year-old getting a seat in Scotland. Well, so be it. We'll actually have somebody in there who knows what it's like to be 20 years old. And it seems to me if 18-year-olds can vote, we should have 18-year-olds in the House of Commons. That's not to say you shouldn't have 80-year-olds as well, but we should have every spread. And at the moment, do you know that the number of women who've ever sat in the House of Commons numbers 372? That is unbelievable. Since 1918, only 372 women have ever sat in the House of Commons, and that is a disgrace.
God. And what would you like to see changed?
Well, I'd like to see a much more representative body of who we are. It doesn't look like me or you. I mean, it looks a bit more like me than it does with you, because it's male and often white-haired. But I only dye my hair white for gravitas. But I mean, at the same time, seriously, there really needs to be a much better reflection of society. Actually, I don't see any harm in reverting possibly to the idea of having university seats on occasion, or young people's seats, some way of spreading the load.
And in a slightly different topic, in light of the Drugs Live programme that you did recently, has your experience smoking skunk and kind of learning about all the facts, has it changed your opinion on the decriminalisation or the legalisation of cannabis?
No, I've worked in a day centre, I'm still the chair of it now, for young 16 to 21-year-olds in London who are vulnerable or homeless or both, and where there's a fair amount of drugs and the rest of it. And I've never really changed my view that I think criminalisation simply exacerbates whatever problem exists already. It cures nothing. It basically criminalises people who otherwise commit no other crime or offence. And I'd personally like to see SmithKline or whatever these big drug companies take the whole thing over and ensure that there are clean supplies of whatever people abuse or use. I don't want to see any more people abusing, and what I really more than anything else want to see is education. Why should I have understood so little about skunk? I knew about cannabis. I'd smoked it before, as a student anyway. But skunk, I mean, I had no idea how damaging it was. And then I learned that 25% of all the psychosis in London diagnosed over the last 5 years has been skunk related. We ought to do something about that.
Do you think that maybe it's time we look at more of an education around these sorts of issues?
Absolutely. People should talk absolutely candidly about how it affects them, what they've done, and that's why I'm glad to have made that programme. I think it was a contribution. A lot of people saw it as Jon Snow, you're just trying to get it banned and all the rest of it. Well, it's banned already, so I can't really do that. But I actually, very strongly think that we should be, above all, the investment should be in education and for as much psychiatric and other help that can be given to people who need it.